I was 32 years old when I met Jesus.
I was 6 years old when I met Jesus.
Hi, my name is Tara. My husband is a pastor here at Foothills, and this is what my life looked like before Jesus.
My name is Zach, and I'm the student pastor here at Foothills, and this is what my life looked like before Jesus. I grew up in a Christian family, baptized when I was 6, and I remember it. It's a memory that I still have today. I can remember going out into the lake, getting baptized very vividly, and lived a pretty normal life for what I thought until I was about 13 years old.
I grew up in a small town, and I grew up Catholic. We would go occasionally. When I was 12, a friend of mine took me to a church camp. I actually heard about Jesus in a different way and thought, wow, I want that. I came home after that church camp, and it was not climactic in any way. And basically, things kind of just lay dormant in my heart.
When I was 13, my parents got divorced, and it was a domestic violence case. It was a pretty serious one. We went into hiding for a little while. We had several restraining orders put in place against my dad. We started to develop a case against him. The state prosecutor actually ended up taking our case as well. Started to form this case against my dad, and it was a wild year. A lot happened. It ended with him taking a plea deal so that he didn't have to go to prison. And when I was 16, after really processing through a lot of the things that I'd been through, I fell into really deep depression.
When I was about 18, I graduated high school from this tiny town, and I moved to the big city of Chicago. So I started working at a very high-end salon. They were very prestigious and had an image to uphold. Because of my feelings of inadequacy, I ended up having an eating disorder. This eating disorder took over every aspect of my life. It started to be something that I thought I could control, and then in a very short period of time, it turned out being something that was controlling me. So fast forward about a decade, and I was still continuing in these patterns. I was feeling empty, and I was married at the time, and our whole lives were just really messy, such a mess. Spiritually, I had been into New Age, crystals, all kinds of things that weren't really fulfilling or satisfying, and quite frankly brought a lot of darkness into my life.
I gave my life to Christ when I was 6. I really believe I knew him and knew what I was doing, but I didn't understand what a relationship with him meant until I was in that dark place, until he really met me there. Because it was in that place that I needed him. And at that point, things didn't get all better after that. It was a process. But I always kind of hung on to something that my aunt said. My aunt's a therapist. She always says, thoughts drive feelings. If your thoughts and your feelings are like a train, your thoughts are the front of the train, your feelings are the caboose. And it was at that time when I was 16 that I decided to trust God and say, I don't feel this. I don't feel joy. I don't feel peace. I don't know that I ever will again. But I trust you. God, I trust you with my heart. And after a few years, I began to experience peace and joy, things that I honestly never thought that I would experience ever again. Not because of anything that I could do on my own, but everything to do with him.
And so I began to pray. And I prayed to God because I really felt like I didn't have anywhere else to turn. And I started praying for my husband. And it was easier to see his struggles than to admit and deal with my own at that time. So I started praying for him, and God really heard my prayer. We've started to go to church, and just hearing the gospel in such a real way just helped me really understand my own sin. And just from the prayer that God had answered, I really felt his love, and I felt like he cared for me, and I felt like Jesus really wanted a personal relationship with me. So he just started doing work in my heart on these other pursuits that I had that were very empty. So I went through all of the crystal books that I had and even CDs and music and all of these things, and I threw them all away. And as far as the eating disorder goes, that was a really long process. I didn't just instantly feel like my identity is now in Jesus and everything is great. It was actually, wow, what does it look like to have my identity firmly planted in Christ, knowing that I'm fully loved and fully accepted, and nothing that I could do could change that. And that's how I met Jesus.
And that's how I met Jesus.